Hello and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, the consultress, here bringing you innovative and interesting conversations, sometimes with boring people. Just kidding. So that we can have new information to make better decision in this age of disruption we find ourselves in. Nothing's going back to normal, folks. We're going to be new and looking at everything with a new lens, whether that's your business, your active, your passive investments, or your life and parenting. Like everything's on the table here. And I have the pleasure and privilege of bringing guests onto this platform from all walks of my life, places I go, people I meet that I think are really cool and that I want to bring to you. So today I have the privilege and the pleasure to interview someone whose last name is damn near impossible to spell if you read it. It is Jeff Cichocki, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Rise and Shine, Jeff.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. I think you've set a pretty difficult standard, by your introduction there, and I feel like I just need to change my voice and just go very, very boring for the rest of the interview.
Like Ben Stein, dry eyes, kind of boring, or
Yeah,
like
exactly. I need to be very monotone for you for the rest of the time,
I
you
hope
know?
you keep
And
that promise because it is going to be my personal challenge to get you to laugh. Just saying. My irreverence runs deep. So we met at a real estate investor conference where you were talking about not only the business of finance in real estate, which is, notes and note buying and all the things about the financial instruments, which is mind blowing to me. It's always been my learning curve. I think I know a lot, and then someone like you comes along and blows the doors off. But also about like buying businesses. And what impressed me the most when I saw you speak was that you were like, "Hey, man, I'm showing up here in my sneakers. I'm just going to talk with you." And it was the most disarming thing I had ever experienced at a conference. There was no slideshow. There was no pretext. It was like, I'm just gonna have a conversation with you, like we would sit down and have coffee together, which I know
Mhm.
you don't drink coffee, so we just hop right over that. But this is why I wanted to invite you here for this conversation because you're a wealth of knowledge. You're a real estate investor in your own right, and you've got an amazing story in your personal and your professional spaces. So Mike, over to you about what you find your passion and your purpose is in your life and business and kind of where that shows up for you. What comes top of mind right now?
Obviously when we met at the event, I was I did like, well, I show up that way a lot. Like to most events I go to, I don't normally dress up. Sometimes I do. It just kind of depends on the role that I have to play at the time. But even if you see me in a really nice shirt and a pair of designer jeans and all that fun stuff, you still get me, right? Like I don't change, just my clothes do. That's it. And so when I got up on stage that day, I knew a significant number of people in the audience, or at least I understood where the audience was coming from because I'm really good friends with Tom, who runs that event. And so I understand his audience really well. And, the truth is, over all the years I've been doing what I've been doing and all the stages I've jumped on and spoken from, the highest level of accolades I've ever gotten are the ones where I just get up and I have a direction to go and I have a theme that I'm going to cover and I have some information I'm going to share, but I don't show up with a big fancy PowerPoint. And I don't put on, the wingtip shoes or any of that stuff. I just show up as me in shorts and a t-shirt and like let's just talk about real life and what's really going on. So it
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know
and that is what qualified you to this stage right here. Because that realness, I think sometimes in our age of digital noise, where everyone's accessible all the time and we go to sleep with our phones in our face, this true beacon and signal of just being real and just being oneself sometimes gets lost in the pursuit of becoming greatness or, just living through these times where we doom scroll.
Mhm.
There are so many more opportunities now in this age of disruption to become more authentic, to have more peace of mind, to know who you really are, than the world or the that media in general will have us believe. There's so much opportunity to re-engage and re-establish, what you want from life, knowing that nothing's going back to normal. Like that was the biggest gift I found in this recent decade was that I started to become aware that our assumption that things are normal or things are fixed, that industrial age mindset that you are who you are all the time, which is why I'm challenging that. I am who I am. I got you to laugh to take our thumbnail.
Mhm.
But the we're not fixed humans. You know, during the industrial age, we learned how to sit down, shut up, and screw the screw in the factory. But becoming a parent and becoming an investor and becoming an entrepreneur are some of the biggest eye-opening things that allowed me to realize, like, I knew less about what was really true than I even thought was possible. So it blew my mind, you know, leaning into these growth spaces and becoming more of who I am meant to be had a lot to do with turning off the noise of the world and being real. So, you know, where do you find yourself being able to dial into that like true frequency? And then where do you get to pay it forward and share it?
So I'm a really, really odd duck in the fact that most of what you see is just it's just me, you know. So it's not like I try to be something for anybody.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I raised my kids with kind of what's the right word to use? A bit of sarcasm, you know, and you know,
Yes.
when kids are kids and they mouth off, and you know, and sometimes they're doing it because they want to be funny, and sometimes they're just being a pain in the backside. But I always told my kids, you know, whether I was serious or laughing, I'd be like, be careful what you say. You never know what's going to come out of dad's mouth, you know. And I've just kind of always been that way, of just being somebody who isn't trying to impress every single person in the planet. You know, I've offended an awful lot of people in my life. And, you know, it's unfortunate because the word offended really just means something was said or done that you just strongly dislike. It doesn't mean that they're the true enemy of you, you know. And that's what's sad about it, is people get offended and hurt by something, and then they cut you off. And, you know, you can't really succeed as a parent by yourself. You know, it takes more than just you. You know, it takes your family, and it takes your friends, and you know, and it's not about whether or not they're in your house disciplining your kids or anything. It's just, it's the support system that keeps us afloat. And it's the same in business. We have to have that support system. And when people cut you off, they're really cutting off the support system for themselves,
Mm.
because those with a strong personality, you know, who aren't afraid of who they are, will just move on, you know. And you know, some of the people that I've offended over the years with just raw honesty and raw truth, you know, it's like they think they're hurting me, and it's like, clearly you don't understand me at all, because it isn't me that's suffering right now, it's really you.
Oh,
And you know, and
yeah.
that's why, like, when we met and I did the presentation that I did, it was really just me talking about a learning experience I was going through. And that's it. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm learning, and I'm not there yet, but just here's what's happening to me.
Yep.
And you know, it was received really, really well, which the truth is I had no idea if it would or wouldn't. It's just, that's just what came to me, and that's what I thought I should talk about.
Yeah, and what I really love and want to like unpack here just a little bit is that you have nothing to hide and nothing to prove. Right? When you show up to spaces where you feel like you have to put on airs because there's an expectation that is from within, that you feel like you must be something else to fit in or to be accepted. This is absolutely the opposite of what belonging really is. So
Yeah.
when you step into, you know, acknowledging your own strength and your own inner signal, and you don't apologize for that, or you don't try to squish yourself into a pretzel for, you know,
Mhm.
to be attractive to other people, like that's where real confidence comes from, and real leadership, because people don't feel the pressure to have to make you feel the way that you're projecting that you want to feel. Like it creates pressure on both sides. So, you know, for example, walking into a room when it's my first presentation, I really want everybody to have a good experience. So I talk really fast, and couldn't control myself. But at the end of the day, you know, everybody in the room was like, cheering me on. So not, they were actually listening to the value I was delivering in that very first presentation. They were like, "Oh my god, I hope she doesn't die." You know, like they didn't get anything out of that presentation at all. So, save your audience from yourself and just be you, right? It
Yeah.
helps everybody.
Yep. Yep. And that's it, and I've had a pretty unique and interesting career path, I think, for most other people, and that's kind of one of the things that I've realized. It's like, I don't really think most of my life is all that interesting. I really don't. And why don't I think my life is interesting? Because it's my life and it's just my experience. And so I don't look at myself and go, dang, you're really interesting. Right. I'm just out here just trying to do what I do and help people and share information and just create things. And of course, the stuff that comes naturally to me is interesting to someone else because they aren't doing it, you know?
True.
And so I've just tried to, be honest with people. I don't have a problem talking about the struggles and the challenges of things and just being real with them. And, which is really the opposite of Facebook, right? And,
No. Oh, hit us where it hurts, Jeff.
yeah, you're not going to see me posting checks of, some big real estate deal that I did and I made a gazillion. Like, you're never going to see me do that. That's just not, that's not me.
That's the something to prove side, right?
Yeah.
When you see people like the proverbial stepping out of a jet with the wingtip shoes and all that jazz,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's creating an image, but it
Mhm.
isn't necessarily the truth. Like, so you have to really differentiate when you're listening to people, like, why is this context important? And, for when you said, I say things that offend people, but they're offended in themselves because it's something
Mhm.
that they don't agree with, or they don't have the capacity to pick apart or to question.
Mhm.
It doesn't reflect on the person who is the offender. Most often it just cuts the person off who is the reactionary from having any true meaningful transformation. So I love that you're bringing that level of being to the table, whether you are in business or at home with your kids, teaching them sarcasm by default. You raise real kids by showing them
Mhm.
who
Yeah.
you really are. And that was for us some of the most important parts of their, elementary years upbringing. We homeschooled the kids for 6 years because we wanted to show them that the stuff you tend to get told that life is, it's all a construct. And I didn't realize that until I became an entrepreneur on my own right and like had to learn by making mistakes that mistakes aren't bad things. They don't label you as a failure. They allow you to grow and test out that like you are going to survive. That first presentation, I did survive and I lived to tell the tale and do more because testing that boundary allows you to see where it really is or if it's, fabricated.
Yeah. Well, everybody fails. That's the funny thing.
Everybody
It's
fails.
like, I do something wrong and someone tells me and labels me as a failure. Well, I'm not a failure. I just failed at an event, at a thing that I was doing. And if you're truly passionate about it and you're really motivated to succeed at it, failure is a stepping stone to success. It's a learning experience. It's like, I just went and I did something that doesn't work. That
Yeah.
doesn't make me a failure, and you know it's like, I've been told numerous times, and it's one of those things that I can tell you because people tell me, but I don't notice about myself. But like, when people try to put things on me, I just refuse to take it. I just refuse to pick up their baggage, and drives my wife nuts because the kids are having some challenge or whatever, and it's just silly. And of course, you want to jump in there and save your kids. And my response is, that's not my problem. Like, I'm
Oh,
here to support them, and I'm here to help pick them up after they fall. But the thing that they're struggling with right now will actually do them some good,
yeah.
to fall down and stub their toe. Right. I'll help them back
Mhm.
up and go, we're not going to do that again, are we? And unfortunately, my daughter will repeat the mistake 7 times, because that's just how she is. She's adamant about figuring it out on her own, which is awesome. And that's also why I don't try to tell her what to do. I don't try to control her life. I just want to be a resource to my kids, same as when they were younger. I'm really here to be a guide for them, the same as I'm trying to do in business, the same I'm trying to do, in my community. I'm just trying to be a guide and a resource and give where I can with what I have,
Yep. And isn't
because
it cool that you have the opportunity to, how you do anything is how you do everything. How
yeah.
you show up as a guide and a resource. It's not like you're going to shake people and say, this is what you must do, because that is actually industrial age thinking. It's like, it has to be done this way. There is a button and a lever and a conveyor belt and a box and then a shipping container. It has to be done this way. Otherwise, the whole system's screwed up. Well, not when it comes to relationships and building things and inspiring people to
Mhm.
do their
Yeah.
best with the new information or perspective that you have as a guide, right? That's parenting. That's also entrepreneurship. No one's going to buy into your vision if you're telling them what to believe. People only buy into your vision if they can see themselves in it, if they can relate to your premise and they can relate to the vision you're sharing, because it's something they also aspire to or something they also relate to.
Yeah.
And there are so many businesses out there that are failing and dying right now in this age of disruption because they're missing the mark. They're still operating in that old paradigm of, this is what you do because it's always been done this way, and there's only one way to screw the screw in this factory. Well,
Mhm.
we are on the cusp of the most humane and highly technological society humankind's ever seen. Look up Alvin Toffler, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But at the end of this day, it looks nothing like the industrial society and thinking that brought us here. Einstein said it best when he said, you can't solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them. You have to look
Mhm.
at it from a new perspective. So, where are you guiding people? Where is it your passion to help people in your business to be able to make that transition and use you as a resource and a guide?
Well, I- so I have so many interests in life, which is
Was,
really a problem.
was that a double-edged question right there? Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
it is. It's like I'm interested in so many things, and it's unfortunately, I don't know if any of your listeners have ever taken a disc test,
Hi
and
D over here.
yeah, and then there's this other test called the YOS, which is the word
Mm-hmm.
Y.OS.
Ah.
That operating system is around personality things as well, like, and they say that your why in life never changes. Your disc profile can change and adapt
Mm.
depending on your circumstances and situations and things. And so my profile came back recently when I took the Y test, that I tend to be someone who challenges, which means I like to ask a lot of questions. It means I have a lot of curiosity to things, and I want to understand things, and I want to figure out how to make it right. Like, how can we do it better, right? What's the way that makes the most sense? But my fourth tier on the scale was mastery, right? And the mastery part of yourself is you have to master things, right? You just keep doing it until you just figure it out, and you're a master at it. And the unfortunate thing for me is that when the profile came back, it said I substitute number two, I switch number 2 and 4 constantly. So mastery becomes my number 2 thing. And when my interests get peaked, a lot of times I do turn into like a dog with a bone, and I can't let it go until I've figured the thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you have interest in pretty much anything and everything that plugs in the wall, when you have interest in anything and everything that is how to make money, which is where my primary business is all about money. And you end up in so many different places and so many different masterminds and so many different conferences, and you end up with so many different friends, and then you have so many different conversations that the pile just gets so big that the reality is, and I don't say this to toot my own horn, it's just a fortunate reality of just being exposed to so many things, that I have a lot of knowledge on a lot of things, and there's several things that I haven't mastered yet. And so, people come to me all the time with life challenges, and I'm not a counselor by any stretch, but I read people really, really well. And, I've been doing real estate investing for 20 years. And I know how to do some pretty crazy stuff that the average person or average real estate investor has never seen, never heard of, never thought of. And half the stuff they'll look at it and it's just so out of the box. They're like, oh my God, that's got to be illegal. No, it's not illegal. There's
Oh,
nothing
if I
wrong
could
with it.
tell
It's
you
just,
how many times I have
right.
heard that comment.
Yeah, it's just a lot more creative than what you're used to seeing, but it solves the problem. And then, my main business is a hard money lending company. And, I work with a lot of private investors who want to invest in real estate, but they don't want to own it. They don't want to flip it, right? They don't want the headaches. They just want to make money on it. Like they want to take the easy path, which is great. Um, People like that come to me. And so do the people that we're investing with, right? In the fix and flips and the landlords and all that stuff. And sitting in the position that I'm in, because I see so many sides of every transaction and I'm watching so many people play the game, that that's all I do. I swear, like that's 90% of my day is literally just sitting here and talking with people and figuring out, what do you need, what do you want, this is what it's going to take to get there. Are you willing to do it?
Yeah, so I have a question for you
Sure.
because I have a lot of exposure to people who have analysis paralysis and
Mm-hmm.
are like stuck
Yep.
getting started or stuck after one or two deals going to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address people who have like stars in their eyes, so to speak, for people who have a
Yep.
lot of experience? Because I've seen this time and time again. Oh, I don't want to bother that person. They're so much more experienced than me. I don't want to come to them and feel like I have a stupid question, or, I think this deal works, but I don't know. So how would you address people coming to you? Have you had the experience of people coming to you that were intimidated, number one? And number two, how would you assuage those fears for people who are looking to just, get started or learn something without feeling that intimidation that they're the stupidest person in the room when they're with you?
Well, so I used to run 3 national masterminds. And at one of the masterminds, a woman who had joined our group, I hadn't spoken to. It was a 3-day event, and we're like a day and a half, day and 3/4 into the event, and the two of us have not said a word to each other because she wouldn't come near me at all. And then, she manages to make her way, and we had rented a giant Airbnb house, and everybody stayed together. And I'm sitting at like the buffet or whatever it was, and I'm just having a little snack, and I'm talking to somebody else there, and she is overhearing things, and she finally comes and butts her way in and starts talking to me, and she's like, I like, you're so intimidating. And I'm like, well, like I've been deep in thought, and I do have this, and so the intimidation thing is interesting because I have this really bad habit that when I'm deep in thought and trying to figure something out, I scowl. That's what happens, right?
No, Jeff,
So,
wait, scowl for us.
well, no. Mm-mm.
Please. I mean, you got to do it.
No.
That
So
furrowed brow just says it
yeah,
all. Go ahead.
so I end up with resting asshole face, right? And so people do get intimidated because I tend to spend a lot of time in my head thinking about things because I am naturally a problem solver, right? I want to fix things all the time. It's like I don't even know how to not fix things, which, that's a spectacular habit to have for your wife.
Oh my God,
Um,
my kids, it
right?
drives them nuts. They're like, Mom, can I just tell you about my problem without you really like getting into problem solving mode? And I'm
Yeah,
like, do you know who you're talking to?
yeah, exactly.
No.
So, but the problem with asking people for help is, people tend to fall into a couple of different categories, right? It's number one, they feel bad because they're sensitive and they're like, well, I don't want to be a burden,
Mm.
right? I don't want to be that guy, or I don't want to be that girl. And then you've got, the ones that are brave, and they're the ones that shouldn't be,
Oh God.
because, they tend to be the ones that are the takers, you know, and then the third category is really those that are just there to give, right? The takers, I mean, we've all experienced them, right? They want, and they never contribute anything, but they've got a question about everything. And it's not that they mean to, like, they don't mean to just be takers. most of the time they just have no idea. They don't realize it. Those are the ones that are actually difficult. The other ones is actually very easy to work with. It's just like with somebody who doesn't want to be a burden, it's just, realizing that that's where they're at and just sort of saying, no, really, like, what's going on? Like, you have to kind of force it on them, and then they'll feel comfortable because you initiated.
They're borrowing
Right.
your courage by saying, I don't want to be a burden. And you say, no, I really like this.
Yeah.
I derive joy from it.
Yes.
Please tell
Yep.
me what's going on.
Yeah.
Ah, that's a really
Yes.
great
Yeah.
way to
The
look at that.
the takers though are, which in the real estate space it's like super common, and I'm sure I'm going to offend a couple people with this comment, or most likely I'll offend them. Some of them are going to realize it's them, but they'll still be offended anyway. It's the people that like, hey, can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain for 4 hours? Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'll spend my whole afternoon doing that. And don't get me wrong, I love talking shop. And I want to talk shop with anybody and everybody because I just love what I do. And I truly love helping and giving to people. But when someone comes up and does that, it's an instant turn off because that they're not there to give. They're not there to contribute. They're not there to even create a relationship. Like, I don't always need somebody to give me something other than just courtesy and respect,
Be
right? It's,
cool, man.
yeah, just to be nice, right? Like, just having a really nice, friendly conversation with someone. A lot of times that's all I'm looking for.
I mean, that's how I learned how to pronounce your name.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly.
it confounded the crap out of me to look at it on a piece of paper. And listen, I was raised with a very Italian last name that no one could pronounce. So I'm very, I want to make sure I get it right. But even that act of like asking the question, who are you? What are you
Mhm.
about? What lights you up? What makes you tick? That is an act of giving. And being in a space with people who have different experiences, know more than you in a lot of different ways. I think some of that intimidation also comes from that place of feeling like a taker. So
Yeah,
if you can get that mindset and you flipped around it, I'm not here just to glom somebody's time up and, abuse the privilege of having access, but to be genuine and to involve in the personhood piece of the conversation as well as the tactical, what can I learn from you piece. I think if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like being that whole scope of person will actually create a good experience for both people, and then it doesn't feel like that giver and taker suck vampire
correct.
energy
Yep.
or the like hierarchical like master student type
Right.
of
Yes.
assumption. It kind of levels the playing field a bit, no?
Correct. Yep. You are exactly dead on with it. And you know, because that's who I am. Like, I mean, if anybody came and sat down and said, tell me about your business, tell me how it works, tell me what you do, like, everything about my business is about serving other people. It's about creating opportunities for people to participate in things.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
it's about partnering up and playing together as a team. It's not meant to be the solo person thing trying to do stuff, because the reality is it doesn't exist. Like, there's no such thing as a solopreneur. It's a stupid buzzword that is meaningless,
Yep.
because I don't care what business or industry you're in, there's someone else somewhere along the way that has done something for you. Like, even if, I mean, I'll pick an extreme example. Even if you could find an example where you were doing an online store and your warehouse that you buy all your products from is 100% automated, and you don't need a person to get the package printed, shipped to somebody's door, except you do. Because, well, first of all, somebody had to write all that software and build the system that it works. So you need that person. You don't need them day to day because they've built something that's repeatable. But without that person, you're screwed. Okay, well, then the package leaves the facility. Well, the UPS guy, the USPS guy, the FedEx guy, right? Some shipping company has to pick up that package and get it across the country to your customer. Okay, but even if we said that was 100% automated too, you need the customer. right? Because you can't sell the product if you don't have a customer, and a customer is always a real person. So how many people did it take as a minimum, even if we discount and throw everybody out of the mix, how many people does it take for you to sell a product? It takes two minimum, right? And the fact that most people just don't realize that, right? We all think we got to do it by ourselves. Like, I don't want to do it all by myself. I mean, I can't run my business without team members. I mean, I have people that work for me and they help, and without them, I couldn't accomplish what I do. And we couldn't be as successful as we are. And we couldn't help the number of people that we help in all kinds of walks of life. And the truth is, without my team, I couldn't even be on this podcast, because without the team, I'd be busy trying to do all that work myself and just killing myself. And creating a team environment and relationships with people and learning how we can work together, we can go so much farther and make so much more money and become so much more successful, way beyond what any of us have ever dreamed. We just have to be willing to talk to each other about it and just say, hey, if I do this and you do that, what will happen? Or who else do we need to bring into the mix so that we have a trifecta?
Yeah. And there's an African proverb that I reference quite a bit. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I always add
Exactly it.
on to that if you're together, once you are on the same page, you're going to go fast, far. Like, there's another saying, if you, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. What you're describing is an exponential acceleration, so long as you take the time to recognize that the people matter.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, you always hear me saying, relationships run the world, because it's not what you know alone, because self-made or one-man army thinking is in a silo. Go live in the woods by yourself.
Correct.
I now live closer to the woods and not alone, but much
Mm-hmm.
less populated than I used to be. But there's still people here. That it takes a lot of people to create economy, to create a share of value. My degree is in economics, and what I learned from that was the system of helping people out, whether it involves money or trade for barter or what have you. An economy has to do with people who have different skill sets and resources, putting them together to make new and better outcomes that didn't exist when the people or the resources were alone by themselves.
Yeah.
So, it's a very encouraging conversation that we're having here around being yourself, being in service to other people, and don't just be an asshole like, I need what you have, tell me, gimme. And
Yep.
also, show up and ask for help in spaces without needing to be somewhere. Like, reverse that psychology of, you have to already have arrived to be qualified to ask the question, because
Yeah.
nonsense. In entrepreneurship, in parenting, and in investing, you need to be more authentic, and that's where you get to attract the right people to your team to create better outcomes than exist by yourself. This is a total team sport initiative, this thing called life. And so, whether that's in your family, you can take some of this wisdom home and implement it in your family, in your local community, in your digital community. High five for being here. Or in your business. Think about these things from a place of, how can I help? Who can I serve? And how can I give? And you'll wind up a winner every single time. It's not mutually exclusive. This age of disruption is all about this plus that is exponentially more, rather than that quid pro quo, tit for tat thinking where the industrial age has kind of formed most of us, but it's not where we're going. So, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming to have this conversation with me here today. Where can people go to learn more and engage with you?
Well, there's a couple of different places that people can go, right? So if anybody's looking at, the lower left corner of my video stream here, right? So it says go to Facebook and go look up my REI coach. So if you're interested in learning about real estate investing, it's a free group. I don't charge anything. Everybody can just come, they can join, they can ask questions. I have a lot of friends that are in that group who are also very, very smart people. And it's just a great free resource for people. If somebody wants to, get take the next step in the real estate space, they're going to land in one of the other two spots, which is going to be which will be best REI funding. So if you're a flipper landlord and you need some capital to actually get the deal done, that's what best REI funding is all about. Is we try to help real estate investors figure out how to pay for all the houses they're buying so that they don't need $1 million in order to go and get a house and be successful. And then the other side is, if you don't want to be a flipper, but you like the idea of real estate and you understand that it's actually a very, very lucrative place to play and you can make a very healthy, consistent return, you can head over to bestcapitalmanagement.com and you can take a look at what we're doing to help passive people invest without actually having to do the work.
Super grateful. Thank you for all that you do in this world, who you show up as, and kind of the prolific learner that you continue to be. There is no like arriving. Yeah, and thank you for embodying that for us. This is what success looks like, everybody. It's having genuine conversations and being willing to share what you know and being able to be a resource and help to other people. Jeff, high five. It's been so good to talk to you here. And ladies and gents, you can find us here every single Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time here on the Rise and Shine with Alissa podcast. So don't forget to subscribe and share this with friends. Who needs this information? Tell us in the comments what you loved about this episode. So next time Jeff is here, we can answer more of your burning questions and address what you find most valuable and interesting, because we are here to be a resource for you. And so, ladies and gents, I'll see you next time. Friends, same bat time, same bat channel. Adios for now.